These are some of the scenes you might imagine when you think of Cuba: old cars, old buildings, and cigar factories. But these are images you also would see if you were allowed to visit Cuba today: shiny new buses and luxury hotels. It's no news to the rest of the world. Cuba is out to make deals, but the United States is hardly in the game. A long U.S. government boycott of the island means most American businessmen are losing out to Europeans and others. José Luis Lancho de León, an economist at the Spanish embassy, says Spain is shooting for $2 billion in exports to Cuba this year.
We have Spanish banks. We have the tourism industry. Almost every Spanish tourist chain is here as well.
Ricardo Alarcón, the president of the National Assembly and one of Cuba's most influential leaders, says his country is doing business worldwide.
With practically every other important actor in the world, with the only exception of the US, we have a normal relations in general with Europe, Canada, your neighbor to the north.
The U.S. economic embargo of Cuba was imposed in 1962 by the Kennedy administration. The goal was nothing less than destroying Fidel Castro's communist revolution.
But now it's the opposite. It is the U.S. who is isolated regarding its Cuba policy.
And because of that, now missing out on business opportunities during the economic crisis. An example: Cuba has found oil deep in the waters of the Caribbean. Jorge Mario Sanchez of the Cuban Center for U.S. Studies says that the United States is missing out on a lucrative opportunity to extract the oil.
It requires big companies and great amounts of resources. So this is when we have the opportunity with oil companies from the United States.
It's an opportunity lost by the United States and an opportunity seized by Canada, France, and Brazil. It's a different story for American farmers. Big U.S. agricultural companies have won the right to ship their goods to Cuba.
The United States is providing just basic food, and their exports are already 50% of Spanish exports. That's only food, so the potential for the United States is strong.
Ships hauling American farm products routinely visit Havana Harbor. About $700 million worth of food last year, and growing. Rafael Hernandez, the editor of Temas magazine in Havana, says good business trumps ideology.
Agribusiness, rice growers, Republicans, guys who are not liberal Democrats, guys from Louisiana, Iowa, Delaware, Nebraska, Minnesota, Republicans that want to sell chicken and rice and wheat and soya sauce and soya beans to Cuba.
Actually, Cuba thinks it can count on bipartisan support in the United States to end the trade embargo. According to a poll conducted by Florida International University, even a majority of Cuban Americans in Miami oppose it. The U.S. embargo forced Cuba to reinvent itself. It is now a major player in selling new medicines, treating diabetes, hepatitis, and even cancer. One day, U.S. pharmaceutical companies could license those products if the embargo were lifted. That could mean millions of dollars in revenues for the U.S. market.
We can negotiate projects the same as we are doing with Europeans. We can conduct clinical trials in the United States. Now it's very difficult.
The biggest opportunity of all for American businessmen may be bringing American tourists to Cuba. The restoration of Old Havana over the last decade symbolizes the new Cuba. Last year, more than 2 million tourists came to the country, pouring billions of dollars into the local economy. Cuba is cleaning up its tourist sites in Havana for a reason. Jose Antonio Figueras, an official at the Ministry of Tourism, says American companies are trolling for business, and Cuba holds the key. That means a whole new industry that could be supported by U.S. tourism, with American hotel chains, American rental cars, and regular flights by U.S. airlines. And that's only a start.
For every million American that is banned to travel to Cuba, airlines are losing $300 million.
So one could conceive of one day a Marriott or Sheraton or some other company being interested in coming here and doing a joint venture as well.
Why not? Why not? We are open to foreign investment. Right now is our program to build 30 new hotels, 10,000 rooms in the next 4 or 5 years.
If Cuban officials and American business have their way, many of those hotels would be built by U.S. companies. And after that, they're certain that American tourists would be strolling these beaches like everyone else. I'm Peter Eisner for Worldfocus in Havana.